Let's catch up with the New South Wales Deputy Premier and Leader of the New South Wales Nationals, John Barilaro. Thanks for joining us, John. I appreciate it. I've got to give ticks to your government for getting out ahead of the pack now in opening up the economy. I thought you were too slow early on, but you've started to catch up now with some getting rid of those number limits on hotels and restaurants. If they've got the space, they can have however many people they fit in there and that sort of thing. But are you pushing away to go further, given how well we've done in crushing this infection curve?
Yeah, look, thanks, Chris, for having me. Yeah, look, definitely. If you look at the infection rate, the community transmission, today there was 3 cases. All 3 are in quarantine. Quarantine's doing exactly what we want it to do on the borders. There was only 1 case yesterday that was outside of the 9 that were identified. And if you go before that, it was about 15 or 17 days with no community transmission. So the reality is that the New South Wales citizens, the Australian public, have done the right work to curb the spread. They've abided by the rules, and the vast majority now should be rewarded for that, and that is to open up the economy, get the jobs back in the market. You know, we believe when the June quarter figures come out, you know, something like 270,000 jobs would have been lost in New South Wales alone, the unemployment rate getting closer to 8%. So that's why we've moved. We've moved fast and we've moved aggressively by 1st of July. We will have restrictions lifted in relation to caps, and we'll go to the square metre rule, the 4 square metre rule. But I have also flagged that even by 1 July, I believe a lot of our small venues, small pubs, clubs, cafes, restaurants, where the 4 square metre rule will still be impossible for them to open and recover and boost employment, that we'll revisit that, especially a lot of those are in regional rural New South Wales, maybe a 2 square metre rule or no rule at all. We'll just abide by some COVID guidelines with health experts' advice.
Yeah, we've got to be close to getting there, don't we? Because everybody knows about this. People are naturally keeping their distance. If they've got a cold or whatever, they're staying away. So as you say, in smaller venues, why not just leave it up to common sense? Because people in the end understand this and are appreciating it pretty well.
Absolutely, Chris. I jumped on the road. I was travelling for about 4 days. I've been out right across the regions, places like Bathurst and down to Taralga and Crookwell and Braidwood and into Cooma and Berrydale up to the ski fields where the snow season is about to be upon us. And clearly in all the pubs, cafes and restaurants, you know, business owners are trying to do the right thing. There's always a bit of grey area. Patrons are doing the right thing. I believe in trusting the Australian public. They've got us to this point so far. We don't want to see the heavy hand of government in relation to how we manage this. I was asked the question, how do you police it? Well, I'm going to police it based on the trust that we've built over the past 4 months together in dealing with the crisis. You don't want to be that publican that has an outbreak. You know, that reputational damage on its own is enough to shut you down. So I'm confident we'll get this right. You don't need the heavy hand, and look forward to more restrictions being lifted into July, and hopefully by August we get back to full normality.
Yeah, there's no doubt that businesses will be onto this themselves because it's their livelihood at stake. Look, what do you make then of these other states? What do you make of states that have still got their borders closed and are talking about another month before they open them up? What are they doing? They've got no cases. It's as if they think that they can just eliminate this disease forever, and New South Wales and Victoria are evil because we have handfuls of cases that are actually eliminated, identified and controlled very quickly.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, listening to today's announcement from South Australia, you know, they'll let Tasmanians and Northern Territorians into their state without the 14-day quarantine, but the rest of us somehow have the plague. We're one nation, one country. You touched on it earlier. I tell you what, I'd be happy to hold back our GST. New South Wales contributes to those other states. We raise more GST than others, and then we get back. Happy to hold back on that if that's their approach. They do have to listen to my Premier, who said it quite clearly, open the borders.
Well, this is the point, though. You know, we subsidise most of these states. Western Australia is an exemption. They often pump money east. But South Australia and Tasmania and the Territory rely on the taxes. So we'll get New South Wales and Victoria back to work. We'll all pay our taxes so we can shunt it across the border and they can just travel amongst themselves.
Well, I tell you what, South Australia seems to want to close its borders, but when it comes to closing its border, in taking water from the Murray-Darling Basin plant, something I've been quite bloody vocal about. You know, they're taking water so they can get the lower lakes filled so they can run their yacht regatta, while our irrigators in New South Wales are going without a general security allocation again. More than happy, let's close that border, but let's build a wall, as someone quite infamous has said, and I'll dam back the water on the Murray-Darling and let the Riverina take that water. But look, this is. I didn't actually think this was possible, that premiers in this country would be talking like this in relation to borders. We keep saying we're all in this together. We are. What we've done as a state, the largest state, to manage the crisis and the spread and the investment we've put in health, the quarantine measures. And again, New South Wales, a lot of people fly through our port, which is Sydney Airport, and then they get into their other states. We're footing a big part of that bill, and we're helping all those states to stay safe. So today, a bit of a slap in the face by South Australia, but my message is the same as the Premier's. They need to open the border, support our businesses, and if not in Queensland, those tourist businesses on the Gold Coast who have suffered because of this, well, they should send a message at the ballot later this year.
Yeah, I've got to say, I hail from South Australia. I understand that this is quite popular in some of these states, but it just worries me. I mean, I believe in one country, in this federation. And the idea that they can just shun the rest of the country while taking the cash is not really the spirit of this country. What needs to happen here? We have this national cabinet. Do we need to get some rules in place to stop this ever happening again?
Yeah, everyone talks about the success of the national cabinet, and I give credit to the Prime Minister and Scott Morrison in exactly that. And good to hear that, even the COAG program will be pushed aside to deal with other issues around federation and states coming together for decisions. But, if you want to make it clear, and there is an opportunity for Scott Morrison, if these states don't want to abide by the national cabinet, then any money that was flowing to those states, specifically JobKeeper and JobSeeker, two very significant funds that are supporting businesses. Well, if those states aren't going to make the right decisions to back their businesses, well, maybe the federal government, through the national agenda and coming together, they should send a clear message. Stop the payments for JobKeeper, and you watch quickly how those states will change.
Well, it's not a bad idea, actually, because you're talking about states that have no active coronavirus cases, have had no local infections for weeks on end. What's the justification for sending them JobSeeker or JobKeeper anymore?
Well, that's my point. We have an opportunity to reboot the economy, create jobs. JobKeeper and JobSeeker is a stopgap. It's to help those individuals that have lost their jobs or those businesses that are keeping their staff on minimal duties. But it's going to run out, regardless if they do it today or tomorrow. By September, JobKeeper does end. We know that the bill of 60 or 70 billion will end. But the reality here is that we have 2-3 months as a states to rebuild our economy, strengthen businesses and get employment going again. And we should be able to do that. And closing borders is an obstacle to that. And I just can't believe these states are prepared to risk those businesses. And even if they reopen their doors, the next 12 to 18 months are going to be tough. Many will probably still fold and unemployment will rise. So it is actually what they're doing in one way is going to destroy the national economy, not just their state economy, and more importantly, hit those that have been hit hard, and that is small businesses.
Yeah, just finally, John, the Eden-Monaro federal by-election is underway. Campaigning is underway. Now, you were involved putting up your hand and taking it out, and Andrew Constance the same. So it was very messy for the Liberals and Nationals early on. But I tell you what, you'd have to say that the chances might be looking a little bit prospective there for the coalition, given what's happening to the Labor Party in Victoria and the way that's flowing to their brand image federally as well.
Yeah, look, Eden-Monaro, the voters are the very switched-on voter base. That's why it's always been a bellwether seat. That's why all of us have to fight for every vote. There's no such thing as a safe seat in either the state level for Bega or for the seat of Monaro, and therefore federally Eden-Monaro. They know what they're voting on. They know the issues, and they know when things aren't right, and what we're seeing with Labor, especially in Victoria, and that'll probably filter into the federal sphere. It's going to help, of course, the Liberals and Nationals in that seat. But, we're the underdogs. There's no question about that. The two candidates that we put up, Trevor Hicks for the Nats and Fiona Cotsfoy for the Liberal Party, they'll have to fight it on issues that are relevant, especially in an area that's been absolutely smashed by bushfires. drought and now COVID, the voters will be looking at what each party puts forward. And, you know, again, Christy McBain, who is the Mayor of Bega, who is the Labor candidate, someone that I've worked well with, again, someone that's switched on all of those issues. So it's whoever locally puts forward the best case why they would be the best person to represent that community at a time that, I tell you what, we're hurting.
Well, I'll be heading down there next month to pump a few $1,000s into the local economy, hitting the ski fields, because I can't go back to South Australia. They don't want me or my money.
Well, look, you know what? You're in my patch of the world, Eden-Monaro electorate up into Jindy and the Snowy Mountains, and it was exciting that we were able to actually have a ski season.
Absolutely.
If you were 3 weeks ago, we weren't going to have one, but I'll welcome you, mate. If you're at the local pub, I'll even buy you a beer. First shout's on me.
I'll look you up. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you.
John Barilaro there, the leader of the Nationals in New South Wales.